We begin today right at the beginning of Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, the first word. So just to refresh what we're speaking about, it's mamish in the middle of a sugya here. The Gemara is talking about the halacha of maisris. At what point are you chayiv to give maisris? So min ha-Torah, there are two conditions. First condition is that the produce you're giving maiser from, there has to be a gemar malacha, has to be a finished product. The second condition is that to have been brought into the house. Only then, if two together, you chayiv a maiser min ha-Torah. So now min ha-Torah, if you don't have both of these conditions, you can eat from the produce as much as you want without giving maiser. But midrabanan, they said you can't eat from produce even before it's chayiv a maiser min ha-Torah, only if you're eating from it temporarily. To eat from it permanently, you're not allowed. But then, what we learned yesterday was there are certain situations that even to eat from it temporarily, you're also not allowed. When is that? If it's food that was designated to eat for Shabbos, because Shabbos is a choshev suda, and the Gemara brought a pasuk, v'karasa l'Shabbos eineg, the suda of Shabbos is the pleasure of Shabbos, so therefore, even to eat from it just temporarily is considered to be significant. It's like you're eating from it permanently, and you're not allowed to eat from it even before you bring it into the house. Okay, but then, the point that the Gemara was addressing is, that, we understand, there's a Beferish Mishnah that says that even before it's brought into the house, if you're eating it for Shabbos, you're not allowed to eat it without giving meiser. But the question is, what's with the other condition? How about if it's food that it's not a finished product? It's a produce that is still being, for example, the Gemara was speaking about what's called in the Mishnah muktzah, which is figs or any other kind of fruits that you put out into the field in order to dry it. And it's not dried yet, so it's an unfinished product. And then you decided that you want to use that for Shabbos. Is that also going to be something that because you want to use it for Shabbos, you're not allowed to eat from it even temporarily? Or do I say the significance of the food that you're eating for Shabbos will only have a koyach, and that you're not allowed to eat from it, b'negeya to the fact that even if you didn't bring it into the house, it's also to eat from it. But if it's an unfinished product, then even the fact that you designated it for Shabbos, that doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. It's still an unfinished product, and you can eat from it temporarily. That was the discussion from the Gemara. Okay, let's continue inside. And the Gemara over here brought the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer holds, and the Gemara explained, the last point that we learned yesterday was, according to Rabbi Eliezer, the pshat in the Mishnah, the Mishnah the Gemara was quoting, is that Rabbi Eliezer holds that when you verbally, not only Shabbos, if you beferish come and say, I am going to eat from this area, I want to eat from here, then it becomes something which is significant, and even if it's not the gemar malacha yet, you can't eat from it without giving meiser. If you want to just go and pick something and eat from it temporarily, so then that's okay. But if you particularly designated b'dibur, I want to eat from this area, so then you made it chashav for yourself. So then you're showing that you want that this is significant for you. So then you can't eat from it b'derech aray. So the Gemara asks on this now. V'haloi moisroi chayzer, the leftovers of this area that you said you want to eat from it, you're not going to end up eating the whole thing. There's going to be leftovers that's going to return over there, that you're going to leave over there. You're not going to eat all of it. Right? The example we had over here in the field, the person has a field of dried figs, and there's no gemar malacha yet, it's not fully dry yet. Right? And the person said, I want to eat from here. He verbally said, but he's not going to eat the whole thing. There's going to be some leftovers. And if there's going to be leftovers, so then it should not designate it. It doesn't make it chashuv that you shouldn't be allowed to eat from it even temporarily without meisters. Why? Because the Gemara brings over here what Rabbi Eliezer said. Shamina leil Rabbi Eliezer. We heard in another place what Rabbi Eliezer said. The Almighty said, Kol heichid de moisrei chayzer. Any time, even if you took from it to eat from it, and you showed that for you it's chashuv, but if there's leftovers and you're not eating all of it, loy kova. The fact that you designated it or you took it particularly to eat, but if there's leftovers, it does not establish it, and therefore you could still eat from it in a temporary way. Where did Rabbi Eliezer say it? Is the Tanan, there's a Mishnah in Maisus that says, Hanoitel zeisim in a maton. A person that's taking olives from a maton. A maton is a barrel where they would store the olives before they would take it to press it for the oil. So they would store it inside this barrel, and it would get hot inside, and then afterwards the oil would be easier to press out the oil. So a person is taking some of these zeisim out of this matan. So now obviously these olives that are inside this barrel, it's considered to be unfinished product. Because the point of what you're doing with these olives is you're going to press it for the oil. But he wants to take a little bit of olives to eat. So the Mishnah says, Toivel achas b'melach, you can take one at a time and dip it into salt, v'oichel, and you can eat it. This is the halacha of eating temporarily from something that is not yet a gemar melacha. So b'derech aray, chacham allow you to eat from it. V'im tovel v'nosan lefon of asara, but if you take out 10 olives, so now you're eating a bigger amount. You're eating from it more permanently. Then chayiv, you have to give meiseres before you eat. This is a takon of Chazal. Anytime you eat even from an unfinished product, temporarily you're allowed to eat from it, but permanently you can't. Rabbi Eliezer says it depends what kind of a barrel this is. Minamaton tohoir, if you're taking from a barrel which is the tohoir, so then chayiv, you're going to be chayiv to give meiser. Minamaton tomei, if you're taking it from a barrel which is tomei, potter. Then you're going to be potter to give meiser. Why? Mipnei shehu machzir es ha-meiser. Because when you take from a tomei barrel, you're not going to eat everything that you're taking. You take out some olives and you don't end up eating everything. You put back some of it. So because you're putting back some of it, so therefore you're not going to be chayiv in meiser. So now what does this mean? What's the pshat in what Rabbi Eliezer is saying? That if it's toir, then you're going to be chayiv. If it's tomei, you're putting back some. It's going to be so you're going to be chayiv. What is he saying here? Let's see. So the Gemara explains. V'havinon ba. The question was asked to explain Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. Ma'ishna reisha or ma'ishna seifa. Why is there a difference if the barrel of these olives is tahir or the barrel of the olives is tamei? So Rabbi Vo explains reisha. In the first part of what Rabbi Eliezer was saying, b'maton tar, we're talking about a barrel that's tahir, and the olives that are inside the barrel are also tahir. V'gavra tamei, and the person, he is tamei. D'lei matzi mahadele. So therefore, after he takes out the olives from this barrel, he doesn't want to put it back because he made the olives tamei. So once he made them tamei, he's going to finish these olives. He's not putting them back inside. Seife b'maton tamei v'gavra tamei. In the Seifa of Rabbi Eliezer's case, he's talking about that the barrel is tamei and the person is also tamei. The matzi mahadele. So therefore, he can put it back. He takes out olives to eat, but even though he's taking them out to eat, he's not going to necessarily finish all of them. He's going to put back some of them because he's tamei, the barrel is tamei. He doesn't mind to put them back. So what do we see over here? What's Rabbi Eliezer saying? This unfinished product, these olives that are inside the barrel that are designated to press oil from them, so it's an unfinished product. If you take out the olives in such a way that you're not going to put anything back, the very fact that you took it out to eat, that establishes it to be significant, that you want it, to eat it now, and therefore you're going to be chayiv to give ma'aseh for it, even if it's a finished product. Whereas if you take it out, but then you're going to put back some of it, the very fact that you're not going to eat all of it, you're going to put back some of it, it's not going to be chayiv and ma'aseh if you're eating it temporarily. If so, the Gemara's question is, the same thing should be over here, b'negeh to our Mishnah. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Eliezer said, the person says, I want to eat from this area, but he's not going to eat all of it. So if he's not going to eat all of it, it should not be chayiv and ma'aseh. So the Gemara answers, Mas nisinami, our Mishnah as well, b'muktzeh tohoir v'gavre tamei. Our Mishnah is speaking about this area where the dried figs are drying. They are all tohoir, and the person is tamei. D'loimotzi mahadele. So whatever a person takes, he's not going to put back because he's tamei, and he doesn't want to put it back because everything over there is tohoir. So therefore, it's the same like over there where Rabbi Eliezer says that he's not putting it back. So therefore, it becomes chayiv and ma'aser. Once he takes it to eat, there are no leftovers. Frag the Gemara, what kind of answer is this? In the case of our Mishnah he doesn't take anything into his hands necessarily. That's not what we're speaking about. He has this big field with a bunch of dried figs, so he takes some of it to eat, but some of it he never takes into his hands. Some of it he just leaves in the field. He's not going to eat everything. So our question is, the very fact that he's not taking everything, the very fact that he's only taking some of it, and the rest of it he leaves there, so according to Rabbi Eliezer, if there's some of it that you leave there, it doesn't become established that it should be usher to eat from it temporarily. So therefore, how could you say that he takes some and he can't put it back? It's there. He never took some of it. He doesn't take all of it. So the Gemara now says, Elo Omar Rav Shimi Barashi. Rav Shimi Barashi says, and this answer of Rav Shimi Barashi is going back to explaining the Mishnah itself. The Gemara brought up this whole Mishnah over here to prove the fact that if you're designating to eat something for Shabbos, so then it's going to be chayiv and maisa automatically, even if it's an unfinished product. And the raya was from our Mishnah, because our Mishnah said that only in Shemitah there's no issue of maisris. But had it not been Shemitah, there would have been an issue of maisris, even though it's an unfinished product. That was the raya the Gemara wants to bring. So the Gemara now is going to say a different answer to this. So Rav Shimi Barashi, Rabbi Eliezer commented, you're bringing a raya from this Mishnah, which is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer, L'taimei, Rabbi Eliezer taka holds this way. Rabbi Eliezer follows his opinion. The Omar, he says, Trume kava, when you have unfinished produce and you take truma of it, so the very fact that you took truma of it, it establishes it that now you're going to be chayiv to take the maisris of it, even if it's an unfinished product and you can't eat from it temporarily anymore. That's what Rabbi Eliezer says regarding truma. And therefore, v'kol sheken Shabbos. If this is what he holds regarding truma, he holds the same, and even more so regarding Shabbos, the same thing. In other words, the point the Gemara is answering is, who was it before in the Gemara? I think it was Mar Zutra. Mar Zutra, the son of Rav Nachman, wanted to bring a raya from this Mishnah that once you're using it for Shabbos, it becomes established for Meiser. So what the Gemara is answering is, yeah, that's true, but that only according to Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer holds, just like Shabbos is an exception, when you decide you want to eat something for Shabbos, so now it's going to become chayiv and meises because of the chshivus of Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer holds a similar thing b'negei to truma. Once you took truma, even if it's from not finished produce, but it's not the final product, but once you took truma from it, you can't eat from it temporarily either. And thereby the truma, Rabbi Eliezer holds that that's true, even if it's an unfinished product. So too b'negei to Shabbos. So that's only Rabbi Eliezer's shitta, but we can't ask from Rabbi Eliezer. We don't paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. So the Gemara brings the source regarding Truma. The Tanan, we learned the Mishnah regarding Truma as follows. Peiris shetarmon achol enigrum malachton. If you have fruits that are not a finished product yet, and you took Truma from it beforehand, usually you don't take Truma then, but you took Truma before. Rabbi Eliezer oiser lechol men aray. Rabbi Eliezer says once you took the Truma of it, so now you can't eat from this produce, not even temporarily, even though it's before the time that it's chayiv and maisris. But nevertheless, once you took the truma, so then you made it choshev, and you can't eat from it at all. Chachamim matirin. Chachamim say you are allowed to eat. Okay, so therefore Rabbi Eliezer has a different opinion. Rabbi Eliezer says once you take truma, and the same thing if you designate it for Shabbos, even if it's an unfinished product, you can't eat from it. But we can't bring a raya from this Mishnah that because it's only Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. So now the Gemara says, if so, okay, you don't want to bring a raya from Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. But in our Mishnah, there's a Sefer. In the Sefer of our Mishnah, we have the Chachamim. So the Gemara, if so, Toshamami Sefer, will bring a raya to this halacha from the Sefer of the Mishnah. What did it say in the Sefer? V'chachamim maimerim atshi yirshim v'yoyim mikan v'ad kan. Chachamim say that it comes out of Yom Tif or out of Shabbos. If a person makes a sign, makes a mark in the field, I want to eat from this spot to this spot. So then it's not muktzah anymore, even though it's in the middle of drying in the field, but he designated specifically what he wants to eat. He's allowed to eat from it on Shabbos. And what did it say in the Mishnah? Why is Maisris not an issue? Because it's Shemitah. So we can make the same diuk from the Reisha that we spoke about Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. We could prove the same thing from the Sefer where it's Chacham's opinion. Taimed out of Shabbos b'Shvius. So here we're going to have a Chazara from the same Gemara that we learned before. So Taimed out of Shabbos b'Shvius. The only reason why Maisris is not an issue is because it's an Erev Shabbos in Shemitah year. The Lav by Surihu. So there's no Maisris in the Shemitah year. Ha b'Shar Shnei Shavua. But if it would be in another year, not the Shemitah year, the Bnei Yisuri Ninu, and there is Maisris Asurim, it's going to be forbidden to eat from this even temporarily. My time, what's the reason? Lav mishum de Shabbos kava. Isn't the reason because once you designate it for Shabbos, so Shabbos establishes this, that it's significant for you, and you're not allowed to eat from it even temporarily. And this is even though we're talking about an unfinished product that's in the field, that's in the middle of drying in the field. So we could bring a raya from the Chacham's opinion of the Mishnah as much as we could bring a raya from Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. So the Gemara answers, loy. There's no raya from the Mishnah. Why? Shani Hasam, that Mishnah is a different case. Kivin the Omar, if the person clearly verbally says, Mikan vat kan ani oichel, it's from this spot to this spot that I'm going to be eating, Kovale, the very fact that he said so, even if it wasn't for Shabbos, nothing to do with Shabbos, but the fact that he said so clearly, that makes it significant for him that he can't eat from it even temporarily. But it has nothing to do with Shabbos. Fragt the Gemara, so if it has nothing to do with Shabbos, my area is Shabbos. So why is the Mishnah bringing this particular case in connection to Shabbos? Afilu b'chol nami. So this could be true even on a regular weekday. And for the Gemara, as we learned yesterday already, it's bringing over here this case in connection to Shabbos because there is a certain chiddush for Shabbos. HaKamash Mulan, the chiddush over here is the Tevel Muchanu Eitzel Shabbos. That Tevel, if when Shabbos enters, the only problem you had with this produce is that the Meisers was not taken from it yet, that does not make it muktzah for the rest of Shabbos. It's muchan, it is considered to be prepared. You could eat from it on Shabbos. In what case? She'im avar v'tiknoi, if someone went and took the meisers on Shabbos, mesukin, then it's good that you can go ahead and eat it. And you're not going to say that because when Shabbos entered, the meisers wasn't taken yet and it wasn't fit to eat, it's going to remain muktzah for the rest of Shabbos. When it comes to meisers, the fact that it's tevel, that you did not take meisers from it, does not make it muktzah for the rest of Shabbos. So I explained yesterday, Rashi says the reason is because the isser to take meisers on Shabbos is only isser midrabanan. Minat Torah, you're allowed to take meisers on Shabbos, so minat Torah, it's not muktzah. Something that's muktzah, that's awesome minat Torah when Shabbos enters, that remains muktzah for the rest of Shabbos. Since taking meisers is only an isser midrabanan, so if in the middle of Shabbos someone takes the meisers, it becomes mutter to eat. That's the only reason why the Mishnah is bringing up this case over here, because the Mishnah wants to say this halacha that b'di'evet, if you took the meisers on Shabbos, that it's not going to be muktzah. That's the answer according to the Rabbanan. Okay, so now, this is the answer, and the Gemara sticks to this answer, and the Gemara, this is the answer according to the Chachamim. According to Rabbi Eliezer, this is a chazara from the Gemara that we learned yesterday. According to Rabbi Eliezer, the Gemara continued, and the Gemara asks that according to Rabbi Eliezer, you can't give this answer, as we just learned, because Rabbi Eliezer has a different opinion, that when you have leftovers, then the fact that you designated it doesn't matter, but that's not true according to the Chachamim. So this remains. So what comes out from what we learned until here? According to Rabbi Eliezer, when you have an unfinished product of food in the field, if you designated it for Shabbos, it becomes also to eat from it, even temporarily. That's Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. The Gemara brings now a question on this. Vera mini, I'll ask you a contradiction from a different Beitza. It says there, person is eating from a cluster of grapes, and this is considered to be also an unfinished product because these are grapes that are designated to press wine from it. V'nichnas miginu lechotzer, and he enters from the garden or from the vineyard into a courtyard. Rabbi Eliezer says yigmar, he can continue eating. The fact that he entered into a courtyard doesn't change the status of this grapes that he's eating, and he can continue eating. Rabbi Yeshua says, Lo yigmar. Once he entered into the courtyard, Rabbi Yeshua holds the courtyard, establishes it to be asur to eat from it, even aray. Another case, the Beitza says, Choshcha b'leilei Shabbos. He was eating from these grapes, that's an unfinished product, and it became Shabbos, and now he's eating it for Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer says he could continue eating from it, even on Shabbos. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, now that it's Shabbos, you can't continue eating from this. Why? Because if you're eating from it, l'kovet Shabbos, so the fact that you're eating of it for Shabbos makes it a significant achila for the purpose of Shabbos, and therefore you can't continue eating from it even temporarily. But what did Rabbi Eliezer say? Rabbi Eliezer said even after Shabbos enters, you could continue eating from it. Why? What's the pshat? L'chayre, the reason is because Rabbi Eliezer holds that these grapes you're eating from is an unfinished product. It's designated to press wine from it. So therefore you could continue eating from it even when Shabbos comes in. So we have a contradiction in Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. When you have an unfinished product and you're eating it for the purpose of Shabbos, from our Mishnah it was mashma that it's going to be chayiv and meiser. And over here it says that you could continue eating from this cluster of grapes and it's going to be potter from meiser. So the Gemara answers, no, that's not the pshat in that Beitza. Hasam kedektani taime, over there in that Beitza, the reason of what Rabbi Eliezer was saying is like Rabbi Nosson explained. Rabbi Nosson oimer, loikish amar Rabbi Eliezer yigmar b'chatzi yigmar. When Rabbi Eliezer says that you walked into the courtyard, you could continue eating, he didn't mean to say that even in the courtyard itself you could continue eating. Elayaitze chutz l'chatzi v'yigmar. What he was saying was, if you walked into the courtyard, if you want to continue eating from these grapes, you have to walk back out of the courtyard, and then you could continue eating. And similar, like Amar Rabbi Eliezer, when Rabbi Eliezer said Yigmar, when he said that when you're eating the grapes and Shabbos came in, and now you're eating them on Shabbos, he didn't mean to say b'Shabbos Yigmar, that on Shabbos you could continue eating these grapes. If it was Shabbos, so then you can't, because now the chshivus of Shabbos does not allow you to continue eating from it. Elamamton l'motzei Shabbos, you have to wait until after Shabbos, and v'yigmar, and then you can continue eating from it. So therefore it's not a contradiction to what we said. If you're eating it for Shabbos, you're going to have to give meiseres, but you're eating it motzei Shabbos, not on Shabbos itself. Okay, the Gemara now concludes this sugya with bringing the halacha l'maaseh b'negei to this subject of eating from produce that's not a finished product, and you're eating it temporarily. And usually you can eat from it temporarily, but there are certain exceptions. Even if you're eating it from temporarily, you still can't eat from it without meiseres. So before in the Gemara we saw two exceptions. One exception was Shabbos, if you're eating it for the Suda of Shabbos, and another exception was once Truma was taken from it. The Gemara here is going to bring other exceptions that there could be a reason that it should be different. So now, what's the halacha? Ki asa Ravin, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Echad Shabbos, whether you have this unfinished produce that you're eating for the purpose of Shabbos. Ve'echad Truma, whether Truma was taken from it. Ve'echad Chotzer, or whether you took it from the garden or from the field and you brought it into the courtyard. And ve'echad Mekach, or whether this is an unfinished produce that you bought from somebody. So these are all different situations that gives a certain level of significance to this that you have. When you bought something, so you show that you want it, you bought it. Or if you brought it into your courtyard, that shows that you want to keep it, you want to eat it. All of these cases, so even though it's an unfinished produce, you're showing that you want it. But nevertheless, kulan, all of these different things, ain't kaivin, it doesn't establish it to be chashiv, that you're not allowed to eat from it, even temporarily, ella bedava shenigmara melachtan. Only if it's produce that's already a final product, that you already finished the produce of it. Okay, so the Gemara now goes through each one of them particularly and explains. Shabbos, when Rabbi Yochanan said this halacha regarding Shabbos, la fukim de Hillel, he was saying this to exclude from Hillel's opinion. The Tanya, because in Abraisa we learned that Hillel said, Hama'ame peris mimakim l'makim, a person that's gathering fruits from one place to another, liktzar, to cut them, to be able to eat from them, the kiddush aleim hayom. And it became Shabbos, he cut them, and before it was a finished product, Shabbos enters. So now the question is, are you allowed to eat from it on Shabbos before you give meiseres? It's an unfinished product, but you want to eat from it for the chshivus of the Suda of Shabbos. Rav Yehuda said, Hillel la'atzmai eiser. Hillel, for himself, he was stringent about this. So the fact that it says the lashon la'atzmai means that he himself was stringent about this, but the Chachamim, everybody else, disagreed with him. So here we see that we are excluding from Hillel's opinion that because it's an unfinished product, you're allowed to eat from it even for Shabbos without taking meiseres. Chotzer, if you bring it into your chotzer, so and it's an unfinished product, you can eat from it without giving meiseres. La fukim de Rabbi Yaakov. This excludes Rabbi Yaakov's opinion. The Tanan and the Mishnah we learned, hamavet te'enim b'chatzeiroi liktzos. If a person spread out figs in his courtyard to dry them, so if he's drying them and it's not fully dried yet, it's an unfinished product. Banav ubnei beisai eichlin mehen arai. His children, the people of the house, can eat from it temporarily because it's an unfinished product. Upturim in a meiser. It's potter from meiser. Even though you already brought it into your courtyard, so you show that you're interested in this. But because it's an unfinished product, you can eat from it temporarily. Tani Allah, and on that we learned in Abraisa, Rabbi Yaakov Machayev. Rabbi Yaakov said, once you brought it into the courtyard, even though it's an unfinished product, you have to give meiseres from it. And Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda, paiter. Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda says, no, it's pater, because it's an unfinished product. So basically, Rabbi Yochanan was saying that we paskin like Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda and not like Rabbi Yaakov. The next case, Truma. If a person gave Truma from this unfinished product, La Fuke, and then what did Rabbi Yochanan say? You don't have to take meiseres from it yet. La Fuke with Rabbi Eliezer. So this comes to exclude Rabbi Eliezer's opinion, which the Gemara just quoted before. The Tanan, it says in the Mishnah, Peiris shetarman, Achale nigrum alachton. Peiris that you took Truma from it before it was a finished product. Rabbi Eliezer oisa lecha menarai. Rabbi Eliezer says in such a case you can't eat from these fruits even temporarily. V'chachamim matirin. And the Chachamim allow you to eat from it, even though you already took Truma from it. It doesn't matter. You still don't have to take the meiseres because it's not a finished product yet, so you can eat from it temporarily. So that's Chachamim. We paskin over here like the Chachamim. The last case that we mentioned before was Mekach. When you went and you bought a produce from someone, but you bought the produce which is an unfinished product. Do you have to give meiser from it? The very fact that you're buying it is also making it significant that you want it. So here, the Gemara brings the Beitza, Kedetanya, that's the Gersa on the side of the Gemara. We learned in the Beitza, Alekeyach te'enim me'ama oretz. A person buys figs from an Ama Oretz. So an Ama Oretz is an individual that we can't rely on him that he took the Maisris. That's the halacha of an Ama Oretz. So now, b'makim sheroiv b'nei adam darsin, if it's figs that most people in that place don't eat fresh figs, they just press the figs and they wait till it dries and they press it. So you bought them and it's an unfinished product. So eichel mehen aray, you can eat from it temporarily because it's an unfinished product. Umaisron, and then afterwards you take meiser from it demai. Like everything that you buy from an Ama Oretz, you have to take the meiser from it as demai. So what do you see over here? Even though you bought it from the Ama Oretz, and the very fact that you're buying it shows that it's significant for you, nevertheless, if it's an unfinished product, you can eat from it without giving maisris. But now the Gemara that brought up this subject, the Gemara says, Shma mino tlas. From this Beitza, I could learn 3 halachas. Shma mino mekach eina kivas. I learned from here the halacha we just said, that even though you bought it, but because it's an unfinished product, it's not keveya, it does not establish this, that you're not allowed to eat from it even temporarily. You are allowed. Ela bedava shenigmra malachtai. Only if it would have been something that's already, it's a finished product. Over here, because most people press the figs, and you did not press it yet, so therefore you can eat from it temporarily. And also, shmami no roiv amei oretz maisrin hein. We see from here that you're giving from this, maisr is only demai, which is a suffix. But really, it's just a chumrah. Most Amei Haaretz do give maisris, but because some don't, so therefore it's a chumrah of demai that you have to give the maisris. And the third thing, Shma mina maisrin demai me Ama Haaretz, afilu b'dava shlei nigmara malachtai. What I learn from here is that I only have to give the maisris. I don't have to give truma, even though it's an unfinished product. So you would have thought maybe an unfinished product that you buy from an Ama Haaretz, you should have to give not only maisris, but even the truma, because it's an unfinished product. So who said he even gave truma? So the chiddush is, no, I only have to give the maisris, not the truma. You could rely on the Ama Haaretz for giving truma, even in this case. And this is to exclude from another Mishnah where we learned, where it says, if you are exchanging fruits with your friends, you have apples and you want to exchange it with your friend that has oranges, for example. So if it's a case that these are both fresh fruits that you're going to eat them as is, that's one case. Or you have 2 fruits that you're exchanging with your friend, but both of them are not going to be eaten fresh. Both of them are being left to dry, and you're only going to eat them after they're going to be dried. Or one person is going to eat the fruits fresh, and another person is going to eat them after it's dried. Chayiv, so the Tana Kama says, in all these cases, you're going to be chayiv to give them maisris, and the reason why you're going to be chayiv to give maisris is because once you exchanged the fruits and you bought, that's a sale, this itself establishes it to be significant that you want this to eat, and therefore you're going to be chayiv to give the maisris either way. Rabbi Yehuda says it depends. Lechoil, if you bought it in order to eat, so therefore it's a finished product. You bought the fruits, you exchanged these fruits, and you're eating it as is. So then chayiv, it's a finished product, and you're going to be chayiv as is. You're not allowed to eat from it because it's already a gemar malacha. You can eat it as is. Liktzais, but if you exchange the fruits with your friend and you're only taking it and it's not a finished product yet, you want to take it now to press and only afterwards you're going to eat it, then potter. Then you potter to give maisris from it, even though you bought it, but because it's an unfinished product, you're not interested in eating it as is, you're going to be potter from the maisris. Hadron Allah Hamevi. This is the conclusion of the 4th Perek of Masechta Beya. Okay, we begin now the 5th and last Perek of Masechta Beya. Sagt Heilige Mishneh, here we come back to the halachas of Yom Tov. Mashilin peiros derech haruba b'Yom Tov. You're allowed to lower down fruits through a skylight that you have. You have an opening in the roof. So what happened over here is this person put his produce on the rooftop to dry or to store them there, and he sees that it's about to rain. So he wants to take them indoors. So on Yom Tov, even if this is not a malacha, there are certain things, we'll see in the Hemshech of this Perek, that Chazal did not allow to do on Yom Tov because of an extra tirche. They didn't want a person to be busy with mundane activity that you do during the week, and then your whole Yom Tov is not going to be a Yom Tov. So over here, when you have this produce that's on top of your roof, So if you have a skylight in your roof and you can just throw it down, that's not much of a tircha. It's very easy to just take that produce and throw it down into the skylight, into the house. So that's allowed. Again, mashilin, you lower down, you throw down these peiros that are on your rooftop, derech haruba, through this opening in the roof, b'yamtiv, on yamtiv. Avaloi b'Shabbos. On Shabbos, they were more machmer, and this is a mundane activity that's not allowed. Umechasim peiros b'kelim ipnei adelef. If you have fruits in your house and there's a leak, and it's going to get ruined from the water, you're allowed to bring kelim to cover it on yontif. V'chein kadei yayin, the kadei shemen, if you have jugs of oil or wine and it's leaking in the house and you want to cover it, you're allowed to cover it on yontif. V'noisten keli tachas adelef b'Shabbos. This is not only on yontif, this is also on Shabbos even. You're allowed to also bring a keli under a leak that you have in your house in order that it shouldn't ruin the house, shouldn't get dirty from this leak that there is in your house. So these are different things that, again, the issue over here is not the fact that you're doing any malacha. The issue is that you're doing a uvdin d'chayil, a mundane weekday activity. But if it's something that's not much of a tirche, it's allowed to be done on Yontif and sometimes even on Shabbos as well. Now the Gemara here, the next piece, is going to focus on the very first word in the Mishnah. What's the right girsa of the first word of the Mishnah? Itmer Rav Yudah Rav Nosson Chatoni Mashilin. One of them was guided in the Mishnah, the word mashilin, v'chatoni mashchilin. Another one, he had the word in the Mishnah, mashchilin. Amma mazutre, mandatoni mashilin le mishtabish. The one that's guided in the Mishnah, the word mashilin, is not making a mistake. Or mandatoni mashchilin, and the one that has the girsa, the word mashchilin, also le mishtabish, is not making a mistake. And the Gemara now brings the source of the translation of both of these words. Man, the Tani Mashilin loy mishtabish, the one that is guided, the word Mashilin, is not making a mistake. The Chsev, because there's a pasuk that says Ki yishal zeisecha, that if your olives will fall from the tree. So you see, yishal means that it falls, it goes down. So over here in the Mishnah, Mashilin peiros means to lower down the fruits into your house. Man, the Tani Mashchilin loy mishtabish, the one that's guided in the Mishnah, Mashchilin, is also not making a mistake. The Tnan, we learned in the Mishnah regarding different kinds of mumin of a b'choir, what's considered to be a blemish in the body of the b'choir of an animal, ha-shechoil v'ha-kesoil. There are two kinds of mumin. One is called shechoil and the other is called kesoil. What do they mean? Shechoil means shenishmita yerechai. Shechoil means that the thigh of the animal is dislocated and it's out of its place. And kesoil means she'echad miyarchaisav gevaya michaverta. Kseil means that one of the thighs of the animal is higher than the other. So it's not the same as the other. So what do you see from here? That the word shchayil means that it's dislocated, it came out, it fell out, so to speak, from its place. So therefore mashchilin would also mean the same thing, that you take out the peiros from where they are and you throw it down into the house. The Gemara now brings another few ways of how to read the Mishnah, the first word of the Mishnah. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, mandetoni mashirin. There were others that read the first word of the Mishnah, mashirin. Loi mishtabish. That's not a mistake either. Then mandetoni mashchirin, and there's another girsa of the Mishnah that read mashchirin, also loi mishtabish. It's also not a mistake. And there's yet another girsa, mandetoni manshirin. And the one that reads the first word of the Mishnah as manshirin, also loi mishtabish, is also not making a mistake. And the Gemara goes through all of these words. Mandetoni mashirin, the one that says mashirin, what is that word? Loi mishtabish, is not making a mistake. It's not, because there's a Mishnah that says, Rabbi Shmuel Leimer, Nazir lo yachuf reishai, a Nazir should not scrub his head ba'adoma, with a certain kind of clay, because it causes the hairs to fall out. So I see the word meisher means to fall out. So over here as well, it means taking the fruits and it falls down, to lower it down in the house. What's the source of the word mashchirin? Loi mishtabish, is not making a mistake. There's a Mishnah that says, and this is a Mishnah that talks about which kind of kalim are mekabel tumah. It has to still be a keli to be mekabel tumah. Hashechair, it's a certain kind of razor. V'hazug shel misparayim, and scissors. Aval b'shenechlaku, even if the scissors was divided into two, or the razor was also divided into two, tmein, it's still a keli and it's mekabel tumah. So the word shichar, which means to cut things, you use a razor to cut things off. The reason why the name of this razor is shichar, because it cuts things off, it separates things. So over here as well, in our Mishnah, mashchirin would mean that you're cutting off, that you're taking down these fruits into the house. The last gerse, Oman de Tani man shirin loy mishtabish, the one that reads in our Mishnah, man shirin is also not making a mistake. The Tnan cause is another Mishnah where it says, Misha noshru kelov b'mayim, a person that his clothing fell into water, mahalach behem, he could continue walking with them if he's wearing these clothing. And he doesn't have to be concerned that he's going to squeeze out the water from them on Shabbos. So what do you see? What does the word noshru mean? Noshru means his clothing fell into water. So over here as well, manshirin would mean that you're taking down the kelim, the peiris that is. Inami, another source of the word manshirin, mahadetnan ezel leket. What's considered to be leket? Those are the things that fall in the field. Hanoisher b'shas ktsire. The stalks of wheat, for example, that fall in the field while you were reaping, so that's called noisher, that it falls down. And that's what the Mishnah over here would mean when it says manshirin. Tanan, so now the Gemara comes back to the lashon of the Mishnah. It said, "Mashilim peiris derech haruba b'yomtiv." If you're allowed to throw down this produce into this opening in the roof on yontif, so the Gemara wants to know how much produce could you throw down? The point of here is it shouldn't be too much of a tircha. So let's say you have a huge amount, it's going to be a big tircha. So how much? We could learn this from another Mishnah that we have in Masechta Shabbos, which is also talking about moving things from one place to another. That is, you can empty out an area that you need for Shabbos. If you have a storage and you want to empty the storage, how much are you allowed to empty it from? Up to 4 and 5 boxes, shalteven, of straw. Or if it's wheat, because you need that area, that storage area for guests to be there, or because people need a place to learn and you want to empty this area for people to learn there. Okay, so what do you see? What's the amount that you're allowed to move out? 4 or 5 boxes. The same thing over here. If you have 4 or 5 boxes of produce on top of your roof, that's how much you're allowed to throw down, not more. So the Gemara, how could we compare to there? Dilme v'dilme shani hasa. Maybe there it's different. Because over there you're doing it for the purpose for people to be able to learn. Aval hacha the leka bitl besa medrash over here. The issue is not that they need the rooftop to learn. Loy, you're not allowed to throw down this amount. Inami, or I could tell you hasa meine time the arba v'chamish kupis shari mishum Shabbos. The chamira over there, because Shabbos is more chamor, v'lei asil is azuli b'yontif. So therefore, people are not going to that is, and people are not going to come to be mezalzel in Shabbos because they know how stringent Shabbos is. Therefore, over there, they're allowed to move this amount of boxes to move it out of the storage. Ava yomtiv, the kill, but maybe a yomtiv, which is more lenient in people's eyes, and the moment you matter something, people are going to be much more mezalzel in the kedusha of yomtiv, so maybe klala. If I would compare it to Shabbos, I would say maybe over here you're not allowed to move anything out. So you can't compare it to Shabbos. Either because over there it's talking about that you need a spot for the Beis HaMedrash, or you need it for guests, or because Shabbos b'chlal people are more careful with. Or the Gemara says, or I could distinguish between Shabbos and our Mishnah and the reverse. Hasam, over there, over there, you're moving things out of the storage and there's no loss of money involved. So therefore, maybe over there, they allow you only to move out a certain amount. Maybe over here, because there's a loss of money involved, it's going to rain and all of this produce is going to get destroyed. Maybe over here, you're allowed to move out even more. Now you don't put this limitation of 4 to 5 boxes. Okay, that's it. The Gemara stops over here, and the Gemara does not resolve this question. How much are you allowed to move out? The Gemara doesn't come to any maskana.